Hey everybody. So I want to start off this video talking about this particular research paper because this research paper is essentially what gave me the impetus to do all of this. And this paper is generative fractional diffusion models. And this was an interesting paper to me. And the bottom line is when you come to the diffusion equation and understanding how it works and everything associated within it, there are a few anomalies that pop out of the diffusion equation, much like a lot of things involving physics overall. The equation works 98, 99% of the time, and then some anomalies will pop out, which is the classical problem within physics. Within that, I like to play around within those boundaries, right? And then so this paper, this generative fractional diffusion models, they solve those boundaries or attempt to solve those outliers of those boundaries by introducing a time element into the diffusion equation and into the whole equation in and of itself. And so that's interesting to me. And then they also, by doing this, what it allows you to do is it allows you to essentially fractionalize the diffusion equation, and specifically other equations within the diffusion equation, which allow you to get into interesting elements overall, right? And the best and most simplistic way that I can break that down is that let's say that numbers exist in a plane, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they all exist in a universe and in this world. But then you have fractional numbers, right? Like 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and 5.5. These numbers, these fractional numbers, exist in a completely different plane, a completely different universe than the whole numbers, than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then they don't interact. They don't know that the others of the other's existence. To them, like if you like to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and 5.5 realm is completely imaginary. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as this concept, right? And so there's this complete differentiation. And then so what you're doing by fractionalizing this equation is you're doing a lot of things, right? You're creating a brand new lever that exists within this diffusion equation. You're bringing in a new plane that you can play around with. And then when you break this equation down further, it has more implications, right? And then so when we dive into specifically image classification and diffusion. So there's two different ways that you can typically do image classification. And then so your typical and your traditional model is your CNN model, which is your convolutional neural network, which essentially learns patterns within the images, right? It learns local patterns within an image, and then like how local dots line up together because it's all pixels, right? And then so it's all based off of just small groupings of pixels, and it learns to predict off of that. And then that method works very well, but there's other ways to measure and to draw and to create, etc., images, and then images, sound, etc. And then because the reason why we can do all of this is because of these things exist ultimately as waves, and we can essentially measure and track those waves. And then there's a function that we can use called fast Fourier transform to measure and convert these waves into mathematical equations that we can utilize. And then so within this fast Fourier transform, there's also a additional layer of it. So the fast Fourier transform is one calculation of the diffusion equation, right? And then within that, you have another equation within this, or another kind of lever that you can put within it, but it's not a lever. It's more just like an enhancement in this instance, which is you can add to the fast Fourier transform the Laplacian equation, and then by doing that, you get kind of this perfect symmetry between the two, where you can calculate the Laplacian by essentially just knowing the fast Fourier transform and squaring it, and then that's all that you have to do. And it always lines up, no matter what the equation is, or the answer is. And then going back to the top of this video where it always lines up and it always works 98, 99% of the time, that always works unless you're dealing with fractional numbers. And then it falls apart, right? And then it just doesn't work right with fractional numbers. And then so within this instance, we have to, and what I'm doing within this is I'm extending that Laplacian equation to fractional space and then creating a fractional Laplacian to essentially solve this problem overall. And then so before I dive into the code here and exactly what we're looking at, you might have observed probably and possibly that some of my pronunciation of these things is maybe not up to par. And so just up front and full 100% full disclosure, most of my advanced mathematical training is self-taught. And then it's a lot, same thing, I'm self-taught. I self-taught myself advanced mathematics the same way that I self-taught myself code. To me, it's like the same thing, right? You stare at it long enough, you understand how they work, you understand the basics of it, you start understanding the higher levels of it, you understand the philosophical aspects of it and how it philosophically works. And then you start putting elements of it together. In high school, for me, for example, just my brain has always worked differently when it comes to these things. So like in high school, I aced geometry. Like I didn't even have to think ever about geometry, and then failed algebra twice. Just the linear aspects of it. It didn't equate with me overall. And then this also equated, this went to college too, right? So in college, aced logic, didn't have to study, right? Failed statistics, and then they're corollary and they're related, right? Like it should be. And then, but it's what I've found in what over 20, 30 plus years now of kind of understanding and picking apart how my brain works is it's very much the linear aspects of these things, right? Like most people think of algebra as linear algebra, and then my assumption for 20 plus years now has been that things like algebra aren't linear 100%, right? That there's a correlation and a plane of existence that exists philosophically between probabilistic algebra and linear algebra. And so kind of like honestly how I solved through like that block for myself is I deal with when I deal with and I have to crunch like linear algebraic equations, I deal probabilistically flat out. Like I've invented my own math, right? And my own math is heavily probabilistic. That's just how my brain is operated. Like from the day, the day I ran into like Nash theory, I was like the world makes sense to me. A lot of people struggle with Nash theory, and then to me it's like I was like, this is how I do math. and then so just it's as a side note. So with that, let's dive directly into this model that we're looking at here. And then so actually this is a good segue into this because the very first thing that I do is I understand that I start to understand this, what I broke down at the top of this video, that there's a philosophical difference between the fractional Laplacian and the actual whole numbers, that you get essentially an additional lever that you can pull by doing this. And then by fractionalizing it, I get access to a lever that I call beta, and then I can pull beta, right? I can by dialing essentially the fractionalization and do I fractionalize it over 2, under 2, exactly 2, or at 0, gives me different levers, right? Like as opposed to if you're just plugging the FFT equation plus the Laplacian, I get one lever, right? But then this way I get 5 levers because I can pull it different ways. And then so when very first thing is I want to make the lever, right? So that's essentially what I do. And then I want to make this lever within a neural network specifically. And then so my how I figure that I'll do this is I'll create a fractional diffusion layer within a neural network. And then so again, going back to the top, when you go to image classification and these things, there's 2 ways to do it, right? Diffusion or CNN, and that's not like you one of 2 ways. And then diffusion is just utilizing essentially the Fourier transform and the math of that, and then mapping that out, and then utilizing the Laplacian to compute how that works out, right? And then so in this instance, I'm just fractionalizing that equation, which gives me access to an additional lever, which is what we're looking at here, which is that fractional operator that we see here. And then I just essentially build it out, and then I get my test of my neural network, and I test out like, okay, this actually works. And then so next test I want to do is I want to take it like a step further and actually build this layer up, right? So cool, like this is a simple test, like this is what an individual layer would look like one individual layer of a this fractional diffusion layer. What would it look like as a full neural network, right? It's going to have forward passes and backward passes, etc. So I have to set all of that logic up as well, right? And then so that's kind of like just the next step in reverse engineering this equation, and like how would this philosophically change this math equation. And then so I go through, and then I essentially very first thing I need to do is like create the overall neural network, right? And then so I create that fractional diffusion layer, and then how I tie it together in this instance is I create it's a frequency grid, and then so I create and I like combine these components together, and then so that's what is essentially doing a lot of the measurements within this, and then I have the forward pass and that's utilizing the Laplacian equation and the fractional equation in this instance for my forward pass in this instance, and then I have the putting it all together to create like the full neural network. So the neural network itself is a combination of layers of these fractional layers. And then I define within that the hyperparameters, and then I have to I'm defining essentially the input size for images, which is 32 by 32, kind of creating the grid in this instance, and then the number of classes. I set it by default for the MNIST task, which you'll see we train on in a little bit here on the not the very next one, but the one after, and then so this is just essentially can we build the neural network, right? This one is can we build a layer? Can we build a neural network? And then here it is, right? And then here it is. It's constructed. So this is the output is our construction of our neural network that is based off of this fractional diffusion equation, which is pretty cool to me, right? Cool that you can do it. And then so now let's test it out, right? Like you can do it. Like does it actually do anything? Like how's it actually work? And then so very straightforward here, right? This is we've got like all of the initial math, but then we have to build in since we're going to train this model, we have to build in actual math in a layer to train it and to do measurements, right? And then so going back to the top, we use fast Fourier transform for all of that. So we introduce the FFT equation in here. And then so that's really the only difference is that we're introducing the FFT equation, and then we have our training and our testing loop within this, and then we're doing our data set, which in this it's the MNIST data set, utilizing standard atom optimizer, and then utilizing cross entropy loss for the loss. Very straightforward as far as just kind of defaulting for what I want to pick there. And then in this very first instance, I had it was printing out. I have it print out every single time after every single shape, because I was running into shape errors a lot. So I had to refine this code a lot, maybe 45 minutes to an hour or so of debugging, and then so that's why it's all printing out this here, right? But so if I was to clean this up, I would have it not print out the shape every time, but just that's why it is. But then so end result that we get 98% accuracy, which surprised me, right? Because this to me this is a pretty basic model overall as to what we're doing, and then I'm not doing a lot. I'm just doing standard diffusion, and then I'm just adding this additional lever, which essentially adds 4 different ways that I can pull the lever, and then that's really all that we add to this, and then it's really basic, but 98% accuracy on my initial test, really good. So I want to do it again, right? So I want to extend the test and then make it a bigger test on a bigger data set on a bigger model. So essentially just I make the model a little bit more robust, add a little bit more features to the model, nothing crazy. Overall, it's basically the same model, just on a bigger data set. This is on the Fashion MNIST data set. And then I go through and then train the model. Overall, I train it for 5 epochs overall, and then after 5 epochs, it ends up at 82% accuracy, which is like really good overall. Right? Like I've trained models, like a lot of models, on the fashion MNIST data set. And then you go through, and then you're like after 5 epochs, you're getting like coin flip accuracy, like a lot of times, or like 60%. So to see after like this model, after only 5 epochs of training, it's never seen this data set whatsoever before, and then afterwards it comes out 82% accuracy overall. Highlights pretty much to me like the overall effectiveness of this method, right? Again, this is a smaller model overall, and then I'm just like the only thing that I'm doing outside of the like your standard fast Fourier transform is this fractional diffusion layer, right? So this is what I'm adding here, is the fractional diffusion, which is essentially creating this fractional Laplacian, and the fractional Laplacian is the mathematical operator that is extending this concept out, and then it's just allowing for more nuanced control over how the diffusion occurs. This is exactly what I spelled out to you, right? And then so I give you kind of just this more in-depth analysis too as well, right? If you want to read like a kind of the more academic version, spelling out fully exactly what all I'm doing within the code here, and what the difference is between this and your standard FFT model. It's all laid out here. To me, it's like it's a small difference within the math, right? And then it's I look at all of this way, right? It's kind of where we're within this moving these things forward is this overall method. What I'm doing is just taking this very famous mathematical equation and this very famous concept and doing one small philosophical tweak to this very large calculus equation, right? But so it's a matter of just at that point understanding philosophically how the calculus equation works and why it's working together. Going back to the top of this video where I lay out the concept of whole numbers versus fractional numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 existing on a completely different layer or a different plane than 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and 5.5. I look at this philosophically. I look at math as a branch of philosophy, right? And then understanding that and approaching it from that aspect is how I get here. So like I don't start these problems or these experiments by looking at it as a mathematical equation. I start by looking at them as a philosophical experiment, and then looking at these equations philosophically overall. And then so hopefully that gives people some like insight and direction into these things, and you find this overall helpful and insightful. I'll leave a link to this collab in the description. And if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.